First I'll have is a roll call, starting with, I'll call the roll. Chet?
Here. And the other one.
Alice?
Here, no one's in the room with me.
Okay. Jim?
Here, alone.
Mark?
Here alone, nobody with me.
All right. Next up is the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now I have to do the announcements for the Right to Know Law meeting checklist. As the chair of the Goffstown Select Board, due to COVID-19 outbreak, and in accordance with the Governor Sununu's Emergency Order Number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this board is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to the meeting, which is authorized pursuant to the Governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, this is to confirm that we are providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. The town is utilizing a Microsoft Teams platform for this electronic meeting. The public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessarily, participate in the meeting through dialing the following phone number: area code 603-766-5646. Again, that number is area code 603-766-5646. And using a participant code of 785645. Again, the participant code is 785645, followed by the pound sign. The town previously gave notice to the public of how to access the meeting using the available telephone number with a posted agenda. If anybody has a problem with telephone access, please call area code 603-384-3624. In the event that the public is unable to access the meeting, we will adjourn the meeting and have a rescheduled at another time. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. I already took the attendance, so that was the first item. The first item on the agenda would be announcements. I'd like to, first thing we have is a proclamation, and this is the proclamation of the town of Goffstown. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Goffstown, New Hampshire. And whereas these infrastructures, facilities, services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals, our engineers, managers, employees at all levels of government and private sector who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste system, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in the town of Goffstown to gain knowledge of and to maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year of 2001 marks the 61st annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association / Canadian Public Works Association. And now, therefore, we, the Select Board of the Town of Goffstown, County of Hillsborough, State of New Hampshire, by the virtue of the authority vested in us, do hereby proclaim the week of May 16th through May 22nd to be designated as Public Works Week 2021 throughout the town of Goffstown, New Hampshire, and urge all of its citizenry of the town of Goffstown to join with the Department of Public Works, the American Public Works Association, and Canadian Public Works Association in recognition of the contributions which public works professionals and employees make every day to protect our health, safety, and quality of life. This given under our hands and sealed the 10th day of May in the year of our Lord 2021, and it is signed by all the members of the Select Board. Adam Jacobs, would you like to say anything?
Oh, thanks, Mr. Chair. Just thank the rest of the board for being able to recognize our public works professionals here in town. And I'd like to give anybody that might be watching from home and had a good interaction or a less than good interaction with DPW, please let me know and we can try to pass on those kudos and fix things if we haven't had any good interaction. So thanks again. We're real proud of our folks, especially over the last year, and continue to hopefully do better in the months to come. Thank you.
Thank you. It is now 6:10. We have public comment. Is there anybody on the line for public comment, Derek?
No, there's nobody on the telephone for public comment at this time.
All right, thank you. We have an appointment at 6:15. Derek, you want to go in and cover a couple of your things for the next 5 minutes?
Yeah, can I just ask that you back up? And I don't
Sure.
believe you did the public and non-public minutes from April 26th.
I'm sorry, yes. So I'll take a motion on the public and non-publics from on April to 26th, non-public meetings.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes and non-public minutes on 4/26/21 with corrections if need be.
Jim, Jim
This is
second.
Collis. This is Collis.
Go ahead.
Excuse me, Collis, you said something?
No, I said I'll second it. I think
Oh,
somebody
okay.
else already did.
Yeah, I think that was Mark that made the motion. Jim seconded it.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, it's a roll call vote. Chet,
Yes.
Collis,
Yes,
Jim,
Yes.
and Mark,
Yes, sir.
and myself is a yes. All right, good. Did you want to go on, Derek?
Yes, if you'd like, we do have David Neiman on the line, but if you want, I can start in my town administrator's report at tab 7.
Well, is it necessary that we hold off on the public hearing until 6:15?
It's not a public hearing, it's just a presentation. So you can start it whenever you, if you're ready to take David's presentation now, you can definitely do that now.
Okay, David, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Can everybody hear me okay?
Sure
Yes.
can. Why don't you go right ahead and start into your presentation?
Okay, yeah, I was having a problem with Teams, new computer, so I called in. So the Conservation Commission, previously we presented to you the Burns Conservation Easement, but in the same area, we've also been working towards another project with the Gibney family. So a handout was provided to you showing where that is and showing its location to the Burns. I mean, they're two separate projects, but they're really both oriented for the same goal, which was to protect the wetland complexes that are south of them. And so I won't go into a whole lot of details about the land because we've covered all that before with the Burns one, but the Gibney one is directly north of Snook Road Swamp, and the property actually extends into Snook Road Swamp. And so again, we sort of saw this as a 1-2 effort here to do one property and then the other. That it has the same high scoring ranks with the Merrimack Conservation Plan and as Tier 2 and the New Hampshire Wildlife Action Plan. There's a lot of vernal pools on the site. It's protecting the high quality Snook Road Swamp. The biggest difference between the two projects is for this one, we don't have a grant source to help pay for it. This would have qualified for the same funding source, the ARM grant, but we couldn't really put in two applications at the same time and compete with ourselves. So we put the application in for the more expensive project, which was the Burns. There's a a budget attached on the second page of it showing that the CE purchase appraised out at $90,000. And then all the various and sundry expenses that go along with that, stewardship, legal costs, project management costs, and so on. And the whole total of the budget comes out to $112,443. And so for this project, we would pay for the entirety of the project out of the Land Use Change Tax Conservation Fund.
Anybody have any questions?
Yeah.
Anything else, David?
Yeah, so the reason I'm here before you tonight then is the Conservation Commission voted to proceed towards completion of the project. And we've scheduled a public hearing with the Conservation Commission for appropriation of funds at the end of the month. And at this time, we'd like to ask the Select Board to consider moving forward with the 4114A process to accept an executory interest in the conservation easement.
Anybody have any questions? Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion.
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
Go ahead.
I'll make the motion to move forward with the process. I think it's a great piece of property and be a great benefit to the town. I think we ought to move forward as quickly as we can with it. So my motion would be to begin the process.
So your motion is to initiate the 41:14-A process to purchase the conservation
Correct.
easement on map 7, lot 88 and 88B.
Jim,
Correct,
second.
thank you.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Motion by Collis, seconded by
Jim.
Jim. Any discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Chet,
Yes.
Collis,
Yes,
Jim,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes, sir.
and I vote yes. So we'll proceed with that process.
yeah, thank you once again, David, for your hard work on that.
No, thank you for all your help and assistance, and thanks a lot to Derek and the rest of the staff who are just always incredible people to work with.
Okay, next up on our agenda is the Public Works Director, Adam Jacobs. You there, Adam?
Hello again.
Ooh.
Yes, I am. So first item for you.
We lost Adam.
Received bids through April 23rd on the six-wheel truck cabin chassis, and also a 100 cubic yard live floor trailer for the solid waste division. We received multiple bids for each piece of equipment, and I attached a bid tab to the memo on page 2. So you can take a look. We received 4 bids for the six-wheel cabin chassis. The low bid, including the value of the trade and taking into account any available extended warranty, which we had requested, would be Freightliner of New Hampshire. Their base bid was actually the second lowest, but once you factored in the amount they were willing to give for trade and the little cheaper warranty, the net cost to the town with the trade would be $93,775. The transfer trailer, we had 3 bids, and the low bidder did not meet minimum specifications. There was some of the frame rail was smaller than specified, and more importantly, spec'd as a steel subframe instead of aluminum. So we found over the years that the steel subframes don't last very long with the material that comes out of usually the trash, can be fairly corrosive. So we started specifying all aluminum subframe. So the 2 that met the bid would be Utility Trailers of New England and New Hampshire Body and Trailer, and Utility Trailers of New England was slightly lower for the same trailer, fully meets specifications. That's a Mack trailer. And that bid was $100,202. So with the board's concurrence, I'd like to recommend awarding bids to the low net bidders for each.
Anybody got any questions? Take a motion.
I'll make a motion. We allow the bid for the six-wheel chassis from Freightliner of New Hampshire for $93,775, and the 2021 transfer trailer for Utility Trailers of New Hampshire, MAC, for $100,202.
You have a second?
I'll second that, Peter.
Okay. I just, Derek, I want to make sure that the motion was made, I know Mark gave the proper dollar amount, but his motion did not include the trade of the 2007 Freightliner truck. I want to make sure our motion includes all of it. So I believe the recommended awarding the bid for the six-wheel truck cabin chassis and warranty the Freightliner of New Hampshire for the total of $93,775 plus trade-in of the 2007 Freightliner dump truck.
I'll amend my,
Is that okay, Mark?
motion, Peter.
Yeah, and that, seconded by Collis.
Same with the second.
Okay,
Second, same with the second.
all right. Anybody have any questions on it? Did you want both, Eric, or just need one at a time?
No, that's fine. We can do them both together. I think it's clear that you are awarding the base bid with the warranty and the trade-in value for the six-wheel. So, no, that's clear enough.
And the utility trailer all at the same time?
Yeah, that's fine.
So we have the motions on the floor made by Bach, seconded by Collis. I'll call a roll call vote. Chet?
Yes.
Collis?
Yes,
Jim?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes, sir.
And I vote yes.
Okay, thank you all.
Household
And
hazardous waste.
Danielle, yes, just before I move on, I just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page as far as the accounting goes. I think last time we had a CIP item with the trade-in. We just want to make sure that when we purchase, the full amount of the purchase is more for the folks at home. The full amount will be coming out of the budget line for CIP, and then the invoicing will also reflect the trade-in allowance that comes out of the into a revenue, general revenue for the town, right, Danielle?
That's correct,
Okay.
yes.
So the only thing we've got to keep our eyes on, just kind of give the board a heads up going forward on the upfit of this truck, the body and the plows, with the increase in steel pricing, we may see when we go out to bid for that piece, we might see a little higher bids than we expected last year. So I think we're going to be in good shape, but we might be right down to the wire on our dollars and cents on the upfit. We have not received back our 10-wheeler yet from the body upfitter. So as soon as we do and give it a once over, we'll feel comfortable going out to bid. We just didn't want to be in a situation where we buy a second maybe piece of equipment from somebody without having seen the first. Okay, moving on to household hazardous waste.
Not to interrupt, just a second. We don't have any information on that. Is that correct, Eric?
That's correct. It was, we placed it on the agenda. Adam wanted to bring it up as an item to talk about this evening.
All right. I just want to make sure we weren't missing anything.
So as people may know, we accept household hazardous waste at the transfer station in Goffstown. This is items such as pesticides, paints, old gasoline, acids, bases, that sort of thing, old chemistry sets sometimes. The idea is we want to try to keep as much of that stuff out of the waste stream as we can and make sure that it's disposed of properly. We are, I think, the only permanently open hazardous waste facility in the state right now, which means we accept every single week. We do it by appointment, but we don't do a quarterly pickup like some communities do. And then you see some communities or groups of communities get together and host a pickup quarterly. We run our own. Right now we accept waste from both residents and non-residents. Residents receive the first 20 gallons or 100 pounds free. And then after that, they pay $1 a pound or $1 a gallon. And then non-residents pay a fee no matter what. They have a $40 minimum charge per the latest fee adjustments. And they pay $2 after that. $2 per pound or $2 per gallon. with that $40 minimum. So we receive a grant from the state every year, and that's based on our population and the fact that we're open year round. And that's 26 cents per person in town. So it's just under $5,000 a year in grant from the state for household hazardous waste. And that's supposed to help offset the cost of further disposal. So we have to pay a contractor. It used to be Enpro, now it's US Ecology. Come in roughly quarterly, maybe 5 times a year, and they final package all of the material that we've accepted for the previous period, and mark it for disposition, and they truck it off site, and then they take care of all the routing information and the state reporting that's required as far as the household hazardous waste goes. So we pay, last year it was about $28,000 to dispose of all this material. We accepted in roughly $11,000 in revenue. So it's a loss leader for the town, but again, the idea is it's worth something to keep all this stuff out of the trash cans, or being, thrown in the woods or dumped out of cars. But it is a loss leader. So we kind of try to strike that balance between keeping our fees low enough to entice people to use the program, but enough that we're not, just completely losing money on all this material. So the problem that's starting to become, we're getting popular. More folks know about the fact that we accept from out of town, and it's now publicized in a few places statewide, and we're starting to see quite an influx. I ran some quick numbers this afternoon, and we had about 130 visits. Different customers last year bring hazardous waste. Of those, about 33 were non-residents for that $10,000 worth of revenue, and then between 90 and 100 individual local residents. So it's about a 3-to-1 margin, but the non-residents, when they come, tend to bring, to make it worth their while, they have a bunch of stuff to get rid of. Either they're selling a house, or they have a death in the family and they need to clean out material now. They can't wait until the next quarterly pickup wherever they live. So they tend to bring large amounts. So we had the high winner last year, I think, paid $1,200 to get rid of hazardous waste from their residents or a residence of a family member. So not insignificant amounts when they come from out of town. So out of, we're only open for these appointments 4 days a week, Tuesday through Friday, Saturdays being a busy day at the transfer station. We try not to tie up our one person that's qualified as a coordinator. So if we're open minutes, by the time you get things unloaded, categorized, logged, paid for. So it's not an insignificant amount of time that's being spent on these pickups, in particular the non-resident pickups. And where we're seeing across the board increases in the transfer station, for everything from brush to regular trash, recycling, cardboard. As we turn into an Amazon society, everything's increasing. Which is a good sign. Stimulus money is working. People are spending that money, but they're also trading things out and shipping a lot of stuff. So we're kind of starting to get frazzled at the transfer station, running extra loads a week, more than we had. The drivers curbside are coming back more often, but that extra hazardous waste time is peeling off our supervisor there to have to handle that. And normally he would be running tractor trailer loads, 1 or 2, to help out, or helping at the scale house, et cetera. So starting to really feel the pain of this. And I'd like to maybe talk to the board about your thoughts about maybe eliminating the non-resident provision of our local hazardous waste acceptance, and just stick to resident only, or maybe some other solutions if the board sees fit.
Peter,
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
what would it cost, or what would we have to charge the out-of-towners to kind of break even? How much are we looking at of an increase? I'm in favor of increasing the out-of-towners and try to leave the towners, the people in town, something that's, that's capable or doable for them to do. Any ideas? Yeah,
that's something we could certainly look at. it's a little tricky with the material. We try to simplify it as far as the fees go, but when we pay for these to be collected, usually they get drummed or crated in some cases in vermiculite or something else that we pay anywhere from $3 a pound up till maybe $7 or $8 a pound, depending on the material and what it gets, clumped with into a drum. Usually we pay by the drum. So sometimes those aren't full and sometimes they're half full, but I'd estimate somewhere in that $3 to $7 per pound or dollar per gallon range if we wanted to try to, make that an equal proposition. And then of course there's the labor and all that. If you wanted to recover that, we could factor some of that in too, but that's the range you'd be looking at.
So what are we currently paying, Adam? Sorry, I'm not familiar with that price.
Sorry, it might have broke up. So between $3 and $7 a pound is depending on the material. That's what we pay. So we're charging them to drop it off and then turn around and package it, store it, and then when the company comes in, we end up paying by the barrel.
I'd be in favor of $7, Peter.
Okay, right now I was under my impression Adam was looking to, first of all, whether we want to continue to take outside hazardous waste. Is that kind of what you were talking about, Adam?
I think that'd be my preferred solution right now would be to maybe let outside out-of-towners focus on their quarterly or their monthly, local NRPC or SNHPC scheduled events. Yeah, and then we would only accept from residents. But if we wanted to try an intermediate step and increase the rates to see if that slows down the influx, we could do that too.
My next question would be, would we lose our $5,000 grant if we don't take outside?
I looked into that. I initially thought there might be a chance we'd get a reduced grant number. I couldn't remember, and then I looked, and we right now receive the highest grant possible, but it's based upon the fact that we're open all year round, and we don't do just a one-off day. The level that we'd get for receiving from out-of-towners on a quarterly basis or something is lower. So we've already maxed out the grant, so we wouldn't lose any of the grant money.
And as it stands now, it sounds like the town ends up paying about $12,000 a year from your last year's numbers, your latest numbers. And what would you anticipate the town's dollar responsibility would be if we eliminate the outside?
So tough to say. I think there's 100 or so that are getting charged nothing. Let's just say all the resident drop £5,000 or 5,000 gallons of material. Even if we were only paying $3, that's 15. So we're losing we're paying $5,000 extra. Maybe if it was at that lowest rate is a good way to look at it. So really right now, the more non-resident, our rates just aren't high enough to be. So the more non-residents come in, the more we lose, the more we're subsidizing that.
So Mark came up with the idea of $7. That would be like a max, but is there a number that you would like to go back and take a look at and come back to the board with to make sure that what I don't want to do is do something that's going to make the town's expenses more. That would be my objective.
If the board's preferred action is to raise the rates and try to cut down on the visits from out-of-towners, I could go back, and as part of the upcoming the fee revisions, Derek had put out some requests a couple of weeks ago to start putting numbers together for that. I could include a revised number for non-residents if that's the way everybody wants to go. One other thing that we could look at, my prime concern is just the extra time involved, almost more so than the money that we're subsidizing to get this stuff out of the waste stream. One other thing we could look at is if we charge enough for the non-residents, we could afford to have maybe we change our scheduling so we have all the non-residents come in on a set schedule less frequently, and we hire US Ecology or NPRO to come in on those days to handle it for us. That might be something we could look at too.
All right.
So
Anybody
Peter,
else?
this is Collis. Oh, yeah, this is Collis, Peter. So my goal isn't really to cut down on the number of non-residents who use the facility and bring hazardous waste in. I think we need to get hazardous waste out of the environment. And if that includes bringing in hazardous waste from non-residents, well, then I think that's a good thing. However, the town taxpayers should not pick up the cost for that. So if we're going to take stuff from out of towners, we just charge them whatever it takes. We pass on the cost, whatever those costs might be, to those non-residents who use the facility and get the benefit of it being able to get rid of their hazardous waste.
All right, so would you be agreeable to, the committee be agreeable to having Adam come back during the fee schedules that Derek has asked for an update on, with a different program other than eliminating outside hazardous waste? I'm going to ask Chet.
Yeah, I'd be.
Chet, what do you think?
I think that makes sense. I'd like to see whatever that number needs to be to cover not only the wastes and make sure it doesn't add to any taxpayer burden, but also to cover the support needed on our end, because I know Adam mentioned the labor and the time. So whatever that number is to support both of those things is what I would like to see.
Okay,
I'm with. Oh, go ahead.
Collis?
No, I agree.
Okay.
I think the non-residents need to pay for whatever it takes to handle and deal with that hazardous waste, including whatever the town puts into it. Time,
Jim?
effort, resources,
Sorry,
manpower.
Collis. Jim?
No, that's it.
I'm sorry, Collis.
No, I agree with Carlos. I don't think we should be paying to take somebody's dangerous materials in. I don't think we should be paying for that. If we're providing a service, we should get paid for it. And I think we need to see the numbers. I think it's a good suggestion that we that Adam come back with some numbers. And if we're going to do it, I agree. And that kind of stuff is bad, and I'd rather not do it at all. But if we're going to do it, we ought to get paid for it, and not our taxpayers.
Okay, Mark?
I agree with that, Peter. Who knows? It may come out more than $7, maybe $8 or $9, whatever the number works out to be. That's what the number is meant to be. And I agree 100%. The weight of this should not be put on the people of the town. If the outsiders bring it in, let them pay for it, period.
Okay. I think that we're providing a specific service to other towns and citizens from other towns, and we should be able to charge a fair fee for that and not cost the taxpayers of Goffstown. Adam, I think that's the message that you just got from the rest of us. So I would go forward with that idea in mind.
That makes sense to me, and I'll come back with a couple options too, if it's less often, but we have the vendor come and they're the ones that manage the entire pickup that day. That seems like it could be a good solution for the non-residents too.
All right, thank you. Anything else, Adam?
That's it for me for now.
All righty. Thank you. Derek,
Thank you.
You're on.
Thank you. At tab 7, you have your committee meeting scheduled for the next 2 weeks. Tomorrow night at 6 p.m., the Sewer Commission is meeting remote.
I'll be there.
Thank you. And Thursday at 7 p.m., the Planning Board has a meeting.
I have that covered.
Thank you. Next week at 6:30 p.m., the Library Trustees are meeting remote.
Yep, Jim will be there.
Thank you. And Wednesday at 7 p.m., the Parks and Rec Commission will be meeting remote.
I'll be on.
And then Thursday of next week at 6:30 p.m., the Village Piscataquag River Pedestrian Bridge Ad Hoc will be meeting remote.
I have that covered.
Great, thank you. Your next page, you have your consent agenda for this week. You have employee status reports for a police sergeant, successful completion of probationary period. You also have a police lieutenant, successful completion of probationary period. You have a proclamation for Public Works Week, which was read earlier. You have event permit for the Historical Society's Berry Classic Road Race on July 24th from 7:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. This begins and ends at the Berry Good Blueberry Farm on Parker Station Road. And then you have the first half property tax warrant in the amount of $21,350,368.96, and that needs a signature of the entire board.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Chet, seconded by Mark. Any discussion? Roll call, Chet,
Yes.
Hollis,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes, sir.
and myself is a yes.
Thank you. At your next page, you have assessor's recommendation. This is a report of timber cut and an associated timber tax warrant for map 11, lot 3.
Motion to approve the assessor's recommendation as presented.
Second.
Who seconded that? I'm sorry.
Collis.
Hollis. A motion by Mark, seconded by Collis to approve the assessor's recommendation. I'll start with a roll call. Chet,
Yes.
Collis,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
and Mark.
Yes, sir.
And myself is a yes.
And the last item in the town administrator's report is a road tracking form. This is for an acceptance of a street name change. This is for map 4, lot 87-6. This is the Woodland Village project off of Bog Brook. In 2010, the select board approved or accepted the road name as Arbor Row. They are getting ready to potentially construct that project. The fire department is recommending a change to Arbor Circle based on the final configuration, and the Planning and Economic Development Director concurs with that recommendation.
I'll make a motion to accept the name of the road for the development on map 4, lot 87-6 as Arbor Circle, as recommended by town staff.
Second.
Motion by Chet, seconded by Jim. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call a roll. Chet,
Yes.
Collis,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes, sir.
and myself is a yes. Motion passes.
That's all I had for town administrator's report.
Okay, we still got a ways to go before our public hearing, right?
You have one at 6:45 and you have one at 7 o'clock.
Okay. And our 6:45 one is to adopt the town ordinance, water quality management ordinance. Not 45. Has anybody got anything else before we start on this?
Mr. Chair, the only other item that we do have, because this is the first meeting of the month, you do have department updates this month, and we do have department heads online, so I didn't know if you wanted to tackle a handful of those.
Sure, if somebody's got something that's only going to be for a couple of minutes, because according to me, it's 6:43 and our first one's 6:45. So.
I can do mine relatively quick.
All right, why don't you go ahead, Derek?
Okay, we've been working with the vendor for the replacement of the 7.5-ton heat pump that does the upstairs hallway, land use, tax collection, and town clerk. So hopefully we'll be starting that project here in the coming weeks. We're fortunate that our property and liability insurance did cover that, minus the deductible, as well as there's a few additional changes that we're going to make to ensure that this time the heat pump lasts longer than 10 years, which this one did this time. We just received the guidance from the U.S. Treasury on the American Rescue Plan Act. This again is the $1.7 million that will be coming directly to the town of Goffstown for COVID relief to be spent between now and December 31st, 2024. Danielle and I, as well as the department heads, will be going through those guidance documents. There's also numerous webinars, and we'll be bringing questions and recommendations to the board here in the future. Otherwise, Town Hall remains healthy, and we are finally fully staffed. Our part-time assessing clerk started last week. Other than the occasional absence, we're finally fully staffed in 2021. So things are pretty well.
All right, thank you. So I think we're close enough now. To start our public hearing, which was scheduled for 6:45, and I got this 6:45 right now. In compliance with RSA 41:14-B, the Goffstown Select Board is conducting this public hearing to accept public input pertaining to the proposed ordinance entitled Water Quality Ordinance. Copies of the proposed ordinance are available online at www.goffstown.com or in the town clerk's office. A second public hearing to be scheduled for Monday, May 24th at 7 p.m. A vote for this matter is scheduled for Monday, June 14th.
Mr. Chair, can I just correct? That should say 6:45. We scheduled them for 6:45 for both this night and the next night because we already had one at 7 p.m. So
on May 24th, it'll be at 6:45. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Thank you.
All right. I will open the public hearing at this time. Is there anybody, Eric, who want to comment?
I don't have anybody on the call-in line.
Okay. Seeing or not hearing of anyone, we'll close the public hearing. And as we said, the information for this is available on www.goffstown.com and also in town clerk's office. A little background information: in 2017, municipal separate storm sewer system MS4 permit, which brings the town into compliance with the Clean Water Act and allows our stormwater system to discharge surface waters, requires a local ordinance to regulate stormwater runoff and illicit discharges. Although most of the new construction, redevelopment, stormwater controls have been traditionally managed through the planning board development regulations, the MS4 permit requires the town to manage all pollutant runoff and illicit discharges. Enforcement of this requires a town-wide ordinance authority to do so, and contained in RSA 149-1:6. And the company water quality management standards are in progress and will be submitted to the select board for approval after adoption of the ordinance. So that's done. We've got more time now. Do we want to update with department heads, starting with Chief Allard?
Sure. Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to first start with the emergency management side of things. As always, we continue to monitor local and national information as it's ever changing. Happy to report the Goffstown numbers are at 15 active cases, which is probably the lowest number I've seen in the last year. So if everyone can continue doing what they're doing, big part of that is vaccinations have certainly helped. I looked this morning, it said 62% of the state have received their initial at least one dose, and 26% are fully vaccinated. Speaking of vaccinations, this Friday evening, the fire department will be helping the SAU once again for administrations, for actually vaccine administrations for students. We've already done it once, and we're giving the second doses this Friday. All the members of the fire department continue to be healthy, which is great news. In the next few weeks, we're going to be coming to the board where we have an ambulance to purchase this year. We've been working over the last few weeks with several vendors, and we finally completed the design. I think some of the board members are familiar with the fire department has participated in HGAC financing in the past, which is the Houston Galveston Area Council, which goes out and gets bids for municipalities on ambulances and fire trucks. So we'll probably be coming to the board to use that pricing for this ambulance. In one of the topics I just want to bring up, last month, the end of last month, I was notified by the Department of Environmental Services of a property near the fire station that has reported in their groundwaters of PFAS contaminants. And historically, fire departments have been an area of concern when those contaminants come up. So we have to do a focused situs investigation here, which is ongoing now. I have to report back to them within 90 days with our plan. We've contacted a company out of Concord, New Hampshire, who is familiar with doing this type of work with the New Hampshire Fire Academy and a couple other fire departments. So they're going to help us get started with that plan so we can at least give our response back to DES in the time frame. The entire project would not have to be completed in 90 days. This could take a year, could take 2 years. There are some financial impacts to this. I don't know what those are yet. As soon as we have that information, we'll certainly come right back to the board and let you know what those costs may be. And then one final note, our life safety inspections that we do for gas inspections and so on are increased quite a bit already this year. The good news is we're keeping up with the demand and keeping our customers happy. So just wanted to pass that information along.
Any questions, Chief? Seeing none. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you,
See
sir.
you later on.
Yeah.
Okay. Adam Jacobs, DPW, did you have anything you wanted to add in?
Thanks, sir. I do have a couple things. I'm going to keep my video off. It was a little choppy earlier, I guess. So road plans continues. We've paved Shirley Park and Shirley Ave last week. Sari Drive was paved today, as well as some significant shim work on both Checkerberry and Hermsdorf, which were in pretty rough shape and had to be deferred a bit on the reclaim schedule. Hollyhock and Big James Lane have both been reclaimed, and the drainage is complete. They are ready for fine grading and paving. Might even be as early as this week. In general, staff's been healthy, and our last two full-timers are scheduled for their start dates coming up here shortly. So the only thing we have left is some seasonal positions open. So if anybody 18 and over wants a seasonal job with the greatest department in town, please give me a call. That's all I've got.
Boy, oh boy, that was just a shot over the bow.
Public
Any
Works
questions?
Week is coming up. I figured I'd get my guns loaded.
Were you in the receipt of an email today? Are you looking into that?
Let's see. I don't know. I don't
Mr.
believe I
Chair,
had
that-
anything
I
at
think
this
the
level.
email you referred to came in right before the meeting. I did forward it to Adam because he was not on the original distribution list, to give him an opportunity to respond to the resident.
Okay. Just as long as we,
Looking at
and so if that resident could get a response, it'd be a great thing.
absolutely looking at it now. Okay, yes, sir.
Thank you. Anybody got any questions for Adam? Seeing none, Chief Serrano?
You're muted. Nope. Nope. You're not muted, but we can't hear you.
You did that on purpose. Oh.
All right, I'm back now. Just wanted to see if everyone could read my lips before I went into it. Real quick. So this week is National Police Week. It came from 1962 when the Congress had a joint resolution to make this week National Police Week to honor those who've lost their lives in the line of duty and also to honor those who are currently serving their community. So I just want to put a big shout out to all of our police officers that work in our community that keep us safe and wake up every day and come to work and serve the community. Second thing is the women's locker room has been completed. So we've added the 100 square feet for those women in there. So they're super excited about that. It gives them a little extra space. Our 2 new officers finished their first week at the police academy successfully. So that's really good. Speaking of that, we're fully staffed on the officer side. We still have 1 opening for dispatch. So to shoot another bow across the bow to Adam, if anybody else wants to work in one of the best police departments in the area as a dispatcher, please feel free to apply. And other than that, we're all safe and COVID-free so far and healthy and still moving forward.
Any questions for Chief Serrano? Seeing none? Thank you much. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Is Diane online? The library?
No, she is not. You do have I think I included her right up in your packet.
Tab 10.
Is it tab 10?
Yeah. So everybody can read that, and also, if you have any questions, reach out to Jim. Jim can get the answers from Diane. And then we have, you all received the email from Rick Wilhelm from Parks and Rec. They're moving along. Actually, I hope you got to see the pictures of the field that had its first mowing. If anybody has any questions on with Rick, I'd be glad to bring them to him. Feel free to reach out to me. Next up would be, we get all the departments, Derek? I believe so.
Yes.
Would be new business. Do we have any new business? How about old business?
What's wrong with you?
That noise.
It's my dog.
Good job. Okay, under the, going to the old business, there's still any word from the county, Derek?
Yes, the police chief and I were going to sit down with the county administrator on Friday. We've had to reschedule, but it looks like we'll be meeting with him either on Wednesday or Thursday of this week to discuss the land, the county land, and the issues the town is facing with the police station. So hopefully we'll have news on what comes of that meeting and can advise the select board on the 24th.
Okay. And changes to personnel plan?
We are still working on the changes to personnel plan. I'd have to finalize the second and third survey. I wanted to run those by the department heads before providing those to the board, so I will have those at your next meeting. There was one other item of old business. If you look at tab 11BI, I don't know if you want to take that up after the 7 o'clock public hearing.
That's 3 more minutes of public hearing. We still got to go over, it's still got to finish the old business with, let's do the DPW truck. It looks like that's the one that's out for damage by the Pike Yard loader. What was that about? Do we know? That's the first I've heard of this one.
It was fairly minor. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Fairly minor damage, but it was a brand new truck and still under all our warranties and all that. We didn't want to let it just go. Over at the Pike Yard, the loader was filling up with asphalt and dumped some on top of the cab and dented and scuffed up part of the top cab. So it needed some body work to buff it back out.
And who's responsible for that? Pardon me?
That'd be Pike.
Yep,
Pike.
okay. Yep.
Yep.
And then the fire chief, tower ladder?
Yes, Mr. Chair. We had a backing accident here at Station 18 Church Street. Fortunately, no one was hurt. They were following all our procedures. It just unfortunately happened.
Lots of damage, a little bit of damage?
A little bit more than a little, not a lot though. We have submitted a claim to Primex. I'm waiting for the final numbers. Most of it was just part replacements.
All righty. I guess we don't have to beat that one to death, huh?
No, the operators did that themselves.
All right, we do have a public hearing scheduled at 7 o'clock. Questions for the chiefs? Anybody got any questions?
Nope.
Okay, 7 o'clock scheduled for a public hearing in compliance with RSA 41:14-A. The Goffstown Select Board is conducting this public hearing to accept input pertaining to the acceptance and exclusionary interest in 36.745 acres conservation easement being conveyed to the Scottiqua Land Conservancy on map 7 lot 91A located on Snook Road. A vote on this matter is scheduled for Monday, May 21st. A 37-acre conservation easement to be held by the Piscataqua Land Conservancy adds to the existing 213 acres of contiguous conservation land. The easement will conserve land protecting the Gorham Brook tributary and associated wetlands, and the buffer drainage and wetlands connecting Snook Road Swamp, both designated as prime wetlands. Financial impact. The New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services awarded a grant of $73,000 from the Aquatic Resource Mitigation Fund. The remaining costs associated with the conservation easement of $73,797 would come from the Land Use Change Tax Conservation Fund. Revised balance conservation fund is $242,244 as of 4/30/21. Recommendation, we'll open the public hearing. Derek, is there anybody online?
I do not have anybody on the call-in line. David Neiman is still on the Teams meeting, but there's nobody on the call-in line.
And seeing no as any of our board members, this is our second discussion. Okay, we'll have closed the public hearing, and the vote on this matter will occur on 5/24/21, and that would be again at 7 o'clock, Derek?
No, that will just be a simple vote. We'll put that in as an agenda item under the town administrator's report, but there will not be a scheduled time for that.
So we've closed the public hearing. Is there anybody on, we have the action makers, which we talked about. Anybody online for public comment, Derek?
No, I do not have anyone online for public comment.
Okay, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
there was
Whoa, slow down. One at a time, Derek.
there was at tab 11B, subsection I, there was old business from last meeting. The board wanted to look over the updated state of New Hampshire's universal guidelines.
That's right, I'm sorry.
So that was the only other item.
Mr. Chair,
Yes?
just before we get into that, I know that you had asked if we had questions for the department heads, but with the question I have, I didn't want to ask the chief this question, have him be cut off for the public meeting. So can we take a step back, and am I allowed to ask Chief Serino a question?
Sure, I go ahead if you're still on.
Thank you. Chief Serena, are you still there? You are, okay.
I am.
Chief, I was just hoping you could to tell us briefly, as well as the taxpayers, a couple of quick things, like what you anticipate the cost coming up in the next couple of years to keep the current building operational, but almost more importantly, what types of liabilities that you can say in public that you may be facing with the current building? I know it's a loaded question. If you're not comfortable answering it now, feel free to come back next week. But I really wanted to get that out there as we start to talk about a new building.
Well, I mean, I can talk about a few things real quickly. You know, obviously, this building was built in 1987. And my understanding is that when it was built with 19 employees that worked there. Currently, we have almost 50 employees, give or take. We've already added an addition to it in 1997, and we are pretty much at max capacity. We have a couple of offices that are, you know, being utilized by multiple people. The space is just really too small. To answer your question, I really, it's hard for me to predict how much money we're going to be spending. I could tell you that when I went through my CIP process, I went and looked at some of the numbers historically, and not including CIP projects, we've spent the last 10 years close to about $175,000 just in facilities. About $5,000 in supplies for those facilities. This is, again, not including any of the CIP projects. We spent numerous monies. I think the COM project to try to expand that was budgeted for 160, but I don't think we got to that point. I think we were close to about 80,000. My concern, you know, moving forward is we've pushed a lot of CIP projects off in the years past. In order to kind of help facilitate this conversation. Some of those bigger projects have to deal with the parking lot. You know, we're going to start looking at the locker room again for the men's side and pretty much moving forward, trending different locker room styles. One of the bigger high liability areas I can speak of in our agency in any police department is the evidence room. That evidence room is not big enough for our current volume of evidence. We are working hard to maintain that. We're utilizing different tactics and places in the building to store evidence. I can tell you right now, we are the live free or die state. So all it takes is one really bad call where we have to seize weapons per court order. And there are some people that we can end up seizing a lot of guns for per court order, which would cause us to have to spend some extra money to find a different storage location for weapons. You know, the building itself is getting old. It has issues and needs to be maintained. Some of those issues are we have bricks in the back that are starting to crumble. We have rotting wood. We have some small leaks that are coming into the sill plates. So these are just a small number of things I can just think of off the top of my head real quick that we're faced with. Again, I can't put a number on that. I can tell you that I would assume that with the cost of everything increasing, that the longer we wait and the more we push this out, at least having the conversations, we're going to run into me going back to CIP again and starting to put in these bigger projects. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Chief. I do have one follow-up. I think it's fair to say, although I will accept anyone to challenge me on this, I think it's fair to say technology sort of grows exponentially, especially now. Do you feel the current building is prepared for that kind of growth to meet the needs of the town of Goffstown going forward?
In my humble opinion, I would say that as we move forward in the years and technology advances, we're going to have to start to make some bigger decisions to either upgrade our technology or, yeah, I don't know that we're going to be able to sustain it for sure.
Thank you, Chief. That's all.
Yeah, and if I can, Peter, this is Collis. If I can just sort of tag on to that. You know, we talked a little bit earlier about the fact that we increased the size of the women's locker room, which is great. Every little bit helps. But really, 100 square feet, that's a 10-foot by 10-foot square room. What in the world can that accommodate realistically? But Again, every little bit helps, but I think we need a lot more than 100 square feet to accommodate the women on the force. Anyway, just an observation.
Well, thank you. Anybody else? Thanks, Chief.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, the next thing with this old business is we're going to discuss the regarding public meetings and facility use of town hall. Some of the background, as we talked about last meeting, was the select board voted on 1/27/21 to mandate all town Goffstown boards and committees commission meetings be remote effective February 15th, 2021, to be reviewed on June 1st. State of New Hampshire released updated universal guidelines on 5/7, effective 5/8. Issues to be considered. It is recommended, and this is recommended by staff, Derek. It says it is recommended by who? I'm sorry, you're muted.
This is my recommendation after reviewing the revised universal guidelines.
Okay, so it's recommended by the
Town administrator.
Okay, it's not clear here who the recommendation comes from. That's why I asked. Because the original recommendation to review this on June 1st was by the select board. So the town to provide remote access via conference, telephone, or committee members and members of the public provide the governor's emergency order allowing such remains in place. Any in-person board members, applicants, and public should be reminded to wear masks if able over their face and nose for entering the meeting. Board and committees can use lower hallway and outdoors for applicants waiting to present. GTV is updating the hardware in room 106. Meetings from room 106 can be live streamed beginning June 1st. The board should also discuss who makes the calls. So let's start right from the beginning. And I think what we need to do is we'll take the discussion on making any changes on June 1st, which is what I anticipated we would be doing. Did somebody want to comment on that? Or Derek, did you want to speak to that?
No, go ahead, sorry.
Somebody out there want to speak to it?
Sure, Mr. Chair.
Chair, this is Carlos.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Chet, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Carlos. I'll kick it off, Derek, and Peter. I still support a hybrid form of meetings. I think we've come such an awful long way with dealing with the pandemic. We've made great strides. I think, in my opinion, I would like to see a hybrid. I think this is a decision that needs to be made by each individual on each board and committee, and each individual who would like to participate in the meetings. I think it's up to those people based upon their specific set of circumstances. Are they vaccinated? What are their underlying health issues as to whether or not they're comfortable attending in person? If they are, they should be allowed to attend in person with the understanding they still have to wear masks, they still have to accommodate social distancing. But, if they feel comfortable attending, I think that's a personal decision that each individual can make. And if they choose to attend in person, they should be allowed to. On the other hand, those who don't feel comfortable and would rather watch or participate remotely, they should have the ability to make that decision individually and participate remotely. And I don't see why we can't accommodate both at the same time in a hybrid format.
Thank you. Chet?
Yeah, I agree with everything Collis just said. I do have a couple of questions for Derek as we look to reconsider this. Derek, in keeping with that 6 feet distance, what would be the max amount of board members, should they choose to attend in person, allowable in that room?
So to maintain 6 foot of distance with the current configuration, which is taken into account for the GTV where the cameras are currently located, you could do 5 board members at the horseshoe table setup. You could do 5 members, basically 1 sitting where the chair normally sits, and then 2 at each individual table We'd have to add a little bit of space between them, but that would be for if you wanted 6-foot distance between each person.
Okay. So my thought would be if we can accommodate that, we can start, as Collis said, allowing everyone to simply make their own choice, given that we have that 6 feet distance. The only piece I would consider in addition to that would be the committees and where there are more than 5 that would want to attend. Maybe we could do some sort of cycle in and out process, and those committees could handle that on their own. That would be my only consideration with it.
If I could, Peter, I think if we need more than just a horseshoe table up front, I don't know why we couldn't use the first row of what now is traditionally used for the public. For those additional board or committee members, we can block off every other seat to maintain the 6-foot distancing. You would gain some seating positions by doing that.
Okay, let's get everybody to get the one shot at it, and then we can discuss it. Jim?
It's hard for me. I haven't seen all the boards and things, but I certainly agree with what Collis says. And I'm not a spring chicken, and I'm really grateful that I've made it this far. I've been vaccinated and everything, and I would really hate to get sick at this point after living a year and a half with this thing. And I think probably anybody would say the same thing. I don't see a need to rush into just even if there's a slight possibility of danger for anybody. I think we ought to be careful about that. I don't see any reason. I don't know. Just my gut just says wait a little bit longer. But I certainly can go along with some of the propositions I've been hearing. But that's my general feeling about it.
Thank you, Jim. Mark?
I pretty much agree with the rest of the board. I know I was pretty much in favor of bringing it back, but after reviewing and looking at what the new plan is, let's just wait a little while and see if this COVID gets any better before we jump into it.
Okay, thank you. Couple of things from my point of view. Number one, when you're vaccinated doesn't necessarily mean you can't get COVID.
Right.
That is a fact. And then having 5 people, let's just say the select board was in downstairs having a meeting, and we had 5 people at the board. That's all of us. Then you have the town administrator that goes there. You usually have the town scribe. She's usually there. And if you have the department heads coming in, then that puts a whole different dynamic on it. I don't think that, personally, that we're really ready for that yet. I said, like I've always said, we review it in June 1st, and that may be premature. But I don't want to rush into anything. I can't see 15 people coming into the budget committee meeting. I understand what Chet's saying, well, they can come in and out. Well, then you're not involved in the discussion of the budget committee. If somebody's coming in and out of a meeting, okay, I'm going to come in and say my piece, and the next person's going to come in and say their piece. That's not how it works. It needs to be an open dialogue. Now, let's remember, even with the budget committee, you still have the department heads coming in to join those meetings, and usually the number 2 person is there also. As doing this for the last 20 years, meetings are not just 5 people at a time. There's numerous people coming in. I heard Jim say he'd like to wait a little bit. I just heard Mark say he'd like to wait a little bit longer. I'd like to make sure that everyone is vaccinated. And then I'm not really sure, Derek, how you would do a partial teams meeting. You'll have to explain that to me, because if I don't want to come into the town hall and participate, but Chet and Collis do, how does a teams meeting work that way?
So IT has set up a conference-style TV that is, I don't know the exact dimensions of it, but it's, between a 50 and 60-inch TV with a camera mounted on the top. The audio input is very good. It's a brand new conference telephone. So what the members in the room would be doing is they would be speaking, and the video would be from that single mount camera on top of the television to the room. So they wouldn't necessarily see a face-to-face. It'd be similar to what they see on GTV. So they'd be talking to that, but then you would see all the participants that are participating remotely would be up on the big screen TV. Alternatively, if a board were to do hybrid, you could also go back to the way the planning board and the zoning board were doing it initially, where people were simply calling in. There was no video portion. That definitely does limit when you have department heads or applicants or presentations happening. That definitely limits it without the video portion of it, but that's also an option that's available.
Okay. Now, can you tell me about SB 95?
I cannot. I would have to, I haven't seen that. I know that the NHMA was pushing, and I don't want to speak offhand without having a chance to look at it. I know NHMA had been working to keep this remote option available for municipal bodies after the pandemic and the emergency orders expire. So I've seen bits and pieces. I'm not familiar enough to comment on that bill this evening. I could on the 24th.
Okay, thank you. Now, Collis, you brought up the fact that people should be able to make their own decisions, but according to what Derek has put out to us tonight, who's going to make the call for each board chairman, and is recommended for each is the board chairman, which I disagree with. The committee chairs should not be able to decide. That's a committee decision. I would never think of myself of making a decision and potentially putting somebody at harm's way to bring them back into town hall. That, as you said, would have to be a individual decision. So part of Derek's recommendation was recommended committee chairs decide upon the appropriate format for a meeting. I disagree with that. I think if a person that should be done by committee and not by one person make that decision. Chet, did you have anything else to add?
I did. I just wanted to, and I should have been more clear. Derek explained how teams would work very well. And that was what I meant by cycle in and out, is that if we had a budget committee, for instance, for one meeting, if all members wanted to attend in person for one meeting, 7 or 5 would be designated to go while the others are on the Teams meeting. I certainly didn't mean for a person to come in, say their piece, and then leave, because that would absolutely limit participation. That was not my intent with my comment there. I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay. Collis, do you have anything else?
No, I mean, other than right now, we're under a mandate that says you must meet remotely. You have no other option. You must meet remotely. Don't bother coming into town hall. I've seen people come into town hall. I know that it's happening with certain committees and boards. So, you know, is it a mandate or is it not a mandate? Where are we on this issue?
Well, who's doing that? Is there anybody coming in town hall for meetings, Derek?
No, since the board made that decision, and I believe the effective date on that was February 15th, we have not had any in-person meetings by boards or committees that I am aware of.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Oh, so I'm not really sure what you mean, but I think that Derek just answered that. And I think, Collis, I know you weren't in favor of the June 1st, but you know, and Jim's asked to have it put out, Mark's asked to have it put out. I agree with have it put out. So is there any reason why we shouldn't review this again in June 1st? Somebody give me a good reason.
So 3 weeks from now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what the board originally decided.
Yeah, we could, but for that matter, we could review it every month, once a month.
Exactly, I agree.
Things are changing. things are changing very, very rapidly. So, I would think we probably want to revisit it every month.
I like
Okay.
Collis's idea, once a month. That to me is good. We can make some headway with that one, I think.
Okay, so
Yeah,
as
the first select board meeting of the month.
it stands now, this will be reviewed the first meeting in June. That's, as far as I'm concerned, that's what we had discussed originally. So I think we should just continue on with that avenue. Anybody disagree? Want to make a motion to change something?
Well, I don't know if we need to change anything, do we? The mandate is already out there and it still stands.
Exactly.
We just made a comment that we would revisit it at a specific time, and now I hear the consensus being, let's do it once a month. So I agree. I think the first select board meeting of each month, we should revisit this.
All right, I agree.
If you want a motion, I'll make
Is that a motion, Collis?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
I'll second his motion.
I'll second it. Jim?
Seconded by Jim. Any further discussion? All in favor? Chat?
Aye.
Yes.
Collis?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
And myself as a yes. So we'll continue on with that.
Good.
Is there anybody on the line for public hearing, for public comment?
No, I do not have anybody on the telephone line for public comment.
And I'll take a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to.
Motion to go into session under RSA 91-A:3, Roman 2, B, I'm sorry, that's D, consideration of, just D, I, and L, I think that is. Yeah, D, I, and L.
And can you add B hiring as well? I had sent an email this afternoon on that matter.
Yes.
Okay, so it'd be under B as in boy, D as in dog, I, and L.
I'll second that, Peter.
Okay, motion by Collis, seconded by Mark to go into non-public. Roll call, Chet,
Yes.
Collis,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes, sir.
and myself is a yes. That'll conclude our public portion of tonight's meeting. We'll be going to non-public. Thank you.